In yoga, selfless service by itself is good, but even that is excelled by the yogi who has sincere devotion and self-surrender. Doing service is fine and right, but when you have proper devotion and you love the work you are doing, then you just give for the joy of giving. That is even higher yet.
Every storm passes, and that's why it's so important to meditate every day. It is really important, and the reason why I say this is because today we're talking about the Yoga of Meditation, Chapter 6. It is really an important practice. When the world is falling around you, as the Gita said, this world is an illusion, right? It's an illusion. We have to remember that, so that we don't fall into the pain of our earth. And the whole idea of yoga study is it's freedom from suffering. Why do we suffer? Because of attachments, right? So the more we tell ourselves, I'm here temporary, this is a play, we're just part of this backdrop with the actors on the stage, like Shakespeare said, then you can stand on your feet and you know that you are never alone, that the divine is always with us. I know people don't like to hear the word God, but I totally believe there is this higher energy, just not what we imagine it to be, but far greater, that our minds cannot even understand this consciousness. But there has to be a creator for all this to be created. Every time you get in doubt, you just look around you. How does our earth rotate 24 hours? How does it stay on its axis? How does gravity occur? And how do we get all the planets in alignment as they should be? There is somebody doing this. How did we get created? So you have to realize that even human beings, if we want something, we want to eat, we have to create the food, right? Even the farmer has to put seeds to create the vegetables. So everything is created. So if we, so puny as human beings, can create such a lot, who created this lot? Who created the universe? What, I should say, instead of who. What? An energy so vast that a mind cannot understand. And I have understood in the last few years with this study more and more, and this is a process, I have understood we are all part of that. We are all part of that, and this is what this is telling us. We are all part of that God. Like a drop is part of the ocean, we are a drop of God. And together we co-create. We are the instruments. So we co-create, and this is why it's so important that we keep up our spiritual strength. Because the material world will attack us again and again, and we will have these harsh periods in time. And quite a lot of people have spoken of this period in time to be quite harsh for the human mind, because it's a psychological battle. But with this hope and with this practice, we can all fight the battle. As Arjuna is fighting the battle, our battle is right here, right now, and we can win. And we can win. So Yoga of Meditation, Chapter 6, Sloka 1. The Blessed Lord said, if you do your duties without desiring the fruits for yourself, you are a true renunciate and a true yogi, unlike those who live without sacrifice and devotion. Renunciation is the essence of yoga, Arjuna. No one becomes a true yogi until he renounces all personal desire. Karma yoga, selfless service, is the way of the wise to attain the state of yoga. Serenity is the nature of those who have reached that state. You experience the true yogic state when you let go attachment to sense objects and desire for the fruits of your efforts. So here it sounds like, oh my God, we have to renounce everything, any personal desire. That means we can't have any personal desire. What is the point of living in this world? It doesn't mean that. It just means when you have, you see, when you first start on this path, maybe, let me give you an example of myself, because I don't like to use anybody else. I thought I was a very unselfish person, but I was a very selfish person without even understanding the word selfish, okay? Now, what is selfish? That you want everything for you. I want my husband to say he loves me 10 times a day, okay? This is just a simple example. I want a better home. I want to go back to Hong Kong, you know, all these things. I want personal desires, right? Okay? So I was unhappy because they were selfish. Because it was all about me. But I didn't know that. I thought that was a natural state of being. Just wanting more things will make you happy. But of course, as you get more things, you realize that it's not the things or what you want that makes you happy. So when you get into this path, there comes a second stage, which is what we call karma yoga. Service. We do karma yoga. Why? Because the next step is unselfish. We try to become less selfish by serving others. And when we start serving others, we start to see, oh my God, my life is not so bad. So the next stage you get into in this spiritual journey is the unselfish stage. And this can only come through karma, when you work through the world. And this is why in the olden days, when students, kings, used to have to go to places called ashrams or gurukulams, where they were taught to be selfless, to be unselfish. Because of course they're brought up in a wealthy environment and they've got everything they need, so they're going to be naturally selfish, right? So when they go to these gurukulams, many times these princes were asked to go to the kitchen and cook for the community. And they just had to do it because that was part of the training. And you read the Upanishads one day, if you do, you know, many of the students, they went to these masters and they said, please teach me. He said, okay, I tell you what, you go into the forest, I'm giving you 10 cows. When you've made it into 1,000 cows and worked in the field, come back and then I will tell you. Then only will you understand the teaching. You know, so this was the way they taught through karma yoga. But all this is changing now. We're not taught to the modern society, even children working in their homes, helping their parents, they have to be paid pocket money. You know, everything has a price. And we've forgotten how to just to give without a price. Do you know? So do you see, we are so interlocked in the material world that we think that sometimes just because we have a little spiritual knowledge, we think we know it all. Generosity is out of the window. The real karma, the love that you do things with is not there. People want something. So this is what he's saying. When you work in this karma yoga, so this is the second phase of spiritual development. And the last phase of spiritual development is selfless service. And that I understood really well by Gurudev's, my favorite quote of his, a perfect action is one that causes no harm to anyone, some benefit to someone, yourself included. So selfless would be, it's just joy of natural. This is natural, you know. People have asked me, why do you do this for 25 years every Wednesday? It's natural. I don't feel anybody's forcing me. 5 people come, 2 people come, nobody comes, 100 people come. It doesn't matter. That's not why I'm doing it. Do you see? Then you're not just thinking, oh, I need to do it because of this, I need to. No, it's nothing to do with that. But the benefit is what? Serenity of mind. And this is what we understand with the real spiritual practice, that nothing is permanent. So this is what he's explaining here. He's saying, it's not a sad state to be in. Because when we talk about renunciation or sacrifice and you don't have sacrifice, no, it's actually a brilliant state to be in because you become free. Serenity comes. But when you have a personal desire, somebody called me the other day, oh, Nalanie, I really want to do this. I really want it. And I'm doing it for the world. I said, really? Or are you doing it for yourself? Why are you so upset? You're doing it for the world. You're doing it for the world. You'd be happy to do it for the world. But I need to cover this, and I need to cover that, and I need to cover that, and So you're not doing it for the world. You're doing it as a business. Make it clear. It's fine. As Gurudev said, if you're doing it as a business, then be a clear business person. Give 100%, you take 100%. No problem. But don't fool yourself and say you're doing it for everybody, because that will make you unhappy later. People come, people go, right? We've seen it. And life is like that. And nobody belongs to us. Do you see? Each one must get their own spiritual strength. So this is what he's saying here. And when you do that, when you work for love, when you work for joy, your gift is serenity. And it's selfless because you're not putting any intention on your work. You do it for the love of it. When you do something for the love of it, there's so much joy in it. You know that when something is done in love, it's not the gift. It doesn't matter the gift. Those are not important. It's the love, the energy that comes through it that is win-win for everyone. You see, because it's done from a place of, when we go to chapter 14 and we talk about gift giving, you will totally understand this. When it comes from the soul, when it comes from the heart, it becomes nectar for the person who receives it. It becomes nectar. That means it becomes medicine. This is why you should not, we'll be talking about in chapter 14, like I said, should not take any gifts that are given in bribery or expecting something in return. Because if you do, they will want it back in return later. This is why it's really nice to work selflessly. Nobody can accuse me of anything, right? I don't know anybody. Don't you know, isn't it free? Isn't it great? And this is the way that you have serenity of heart. So are you understanding? And this is a process in our spiritual growth. So don't judge people if they don't understand this immediately. It takes years and time, as it took me a lot of time to really understand. When I started not charging, it was really because it was my goal. I said, if there is a God, you're going to look after me. You're going to look after me because I'm not going to ask for anything. And it's proven to me. I was looked after and still am. It's proven to me. And it was a proof that I had to have to be able to talk to you. At that time, it wasn't that. It was just, I want to know God before I die. That's still, how I feel. And I think that God's in everyone now. It's so exciting. So anyway, so this serenity is in the nature of those who have reached this state. And that's why it says, if you don't expect anything from your efforts, then you are at peace. Do them for the joy of it. And now, 5, I would like you all to memorize. This is often quoted. A person can rise up through the efforts of his own mind, or in the same manner, draw himself down. For each person is his own friend or enemy. So this is really very clear. Nobody can do this for you. Lord Krishna is telling Arjuna, you have it. You can raise yourself by yourself and you become your best friend, or you can become your worst enemy. There's no God doing this to you. This is you doing it to you. As you gain control of your mind with the help of your higher self, then your mind and ego become your allies. But the uncontrolled mind behaves as an enemy. And this is what I learned when I first started to meditate. This was the magic I learned. That prior to that, my mind was my enemy. There was no God punishing me. But God was within me. Seek the kingdom of heaven. Where is the kingdom of heaven? Within. So It was within me. The higher self, we call it in yoga. The higher self was within me. And if I asked or recognized it, not as an external force, but as an internal force, then it would help me and guide me. And I saw that, I've seen that, still continue to see this all the time throughout my life. That there is a force greater than me, and I really don't know where it comes from. It just woof, and it comes. And there is this connection, this feeling of warmth, this feeling of heart movement, this feeling of love. Who's doing this to my body? Just like the question I ask, and I ask my Hatha Yoga students every week after they finish Surya Namaskaram 3 or 4 times. And I said, listen. And I say, lie down. When they lie down, I said, look at that. Your heart is beating, is it not? No. Who's making it beat? But you are still. They're lying down so still, but the heart is da-da-da-da-da. So that's how you know you can control panic attacks. Because it's beating exactly as it would beat when you have a panic attack. The only thing is the mind is saying, it's a panic attack. So you panic. Now here your heart is beating, the mind is saying, oh, nice to lie down. After Surya Namaskaram, my heart beats. Then I ask, who makes your heart beat? Stops beating, you're dead. You're not consciously doing it, are you? So then you start to know there is a force. Hey, there's a force. How come my heart is beating so much and I'm so calm? Because me, I'm really not the body. I can watch my body go into this mode, and yet I'm quiet. I love to do that after they do Surya Namaskaram, because you can see they literally get the message. They literally, and this is what panic attacks are all about, when you teach people that you can step back. So what if the heart's beating? Step back. Breathe in, breathe out. My body is panicking, but I am fine. I am fine. And this is how you do it. So, but the uncontrolled mind becomes your enemy. Everything is sad, everything is broken, everything is miserable. What to do? What to do? This is the sorry state of human beings today, when they don't understand there's so much more than what they think they are. 7. With a self-disciplined mind, you experience a state of constant serenity, correctly identifying with your highest self, who remains unaffected in heat or cold, pleasure or pain, praise or blame. So he says here, once you've learned to control the mind, discipline. So discipline is really important, okay? You have to start with discipline. And the only way is to start with, for me, the most important way to start is to start with a meditation. And this is the discipline. Your highest self. So, again, your body feels pain, your body feels pleasure. Your body feels cold, your body feels heat. This is the body. But when you are constantly in touch with the higher self, that cold that I used to feel like when I was young, yes, I'm cold, but it doesn't torture me anymore. Do you see? You still feel it because we're human, because body, but it no longer, you kind of like renounce from it. Oh, I'm cold, you just turn on the fire, but it's no big deal anymore. It's no big deal. So you start to balance. And in the early days when people would say, oh, one negative word, I'd go home and think about it all the time. Now if somebody says something negative, I laugh. I just laugh. I find it very funny, It's their choice. If they really want to think of me like that, it's their choice. How does that benefit your mind and your spirit? So you see many yogis will do all these strange things and they say, I'm powerful. I say, are you peaceful? Because all these things, when your body gets all finished, they're finished. And this is what Sri Patanjali warns us in book 3 when we did Raja 2. What did he warn us? He said, when you go on this yogic path, you will get lots of gifts, clairvoyance, clairaudience, etc. They're there to protect you and look after you. But please do not go into yoga to gain these powers. And here at the end of this chapter, he also says that. It's the same thing. You're not here for that. Because these powers are like you show off to the world. Look, I'm so incredible. I can do this. What happens to the disciples of these people? What happens to the disciples? They hold on to that. He can do miracles. But they don't think they're good enough ever because they can't do it. Do you see? So they keep them magnetized into this, hypnotized to believe, unless I do that, I can't find God. So it's, for me, I'm so sorry. Please, everybody have their own belief system. I believe it takes us more into ego and stops our natural spiritual growth, which ultimately is accepting that we're all going to die one day. We're preparing for that day. We chose to come to earth to self-realize, to realize the divine. That's our human mission. We don't belong here really for a long time. So let us spend our time preparing for that. And when the day comes, we leave happily. That's our goal, simple. Because that is the truth. All the rest is here. We're showing people here. So a true and steady yogi is utterly content with the wisdom of real knowing, is not disturbed by anything, has controlled and calmed his senses, and looks with equal vision on a dirt clod, a stone, or a nugget of gold. In other words, you're not affected like most people. Oh my God, oh, they own this and they own that. I want to get to know them. No, for you, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter a big castle or a small home. You see it all equally. Doesn't matter. That's not what's important. And I must tell you an experience I had when I went on a pilgrimage with my father. And my father, he's no longer in his body, started very poor at the age of 12 working, and then built this amazing empire. And we always lived in a lap of luxury, 5-star hotels, etc. Literally the best. And I do miss traveling with Dad. It was the most fun, and he knew everybody. But anyway, we went to India on pilgrimage. And he was building a hospital there, he was building homes for people there, and he was giving nearly all his money away, which was great to see. Anyway, one day, one of the people in the village went to my dad, and he went to my dad, bowed at his feet, and he said, "You're helping our village so much. Please, please, please come home with your wife and your daughter and have lunch with us." Oh, my dad was so happy. Anyway, we go to his home for lunch. The home must be quarter of the size of this room. In that room is one bed, which he shares with his wife and his 2 kids, and it's like cardboard, hard as a rock, like a table, okay? And then the toilet is just one of these outside toilets. And I walk in with Dad and Mom. In those days, I was very young. I'm like, yucks, this is really dirty. Really, I'm being very honest about the way I felt at those days. And then I watched my father. And he hugged the man and he said, "Thank you for bringing us to this house." And they put all their food that they had, and they put me, my mom, and my dad on that bed to eat, because that's all we could eat. And I'm like crying. Dad, we can't eat this food. That's their food. What are they going? Don't worry now. Respect them. This makes them feel good about themselves. Keep quiet. Just eat everything and don't feel bad about it. Enjoy it. So I sat with Dad. My dad was thanking them. And then afterwards, of course, he gave him a packet. But it wasn't that. It was that humility. They had nothing, and they gave us everything, And my dad had the wisdom to make them feel that the food was the most incredible feast that we could ever have. he made them feel so good that they were sobbing with gratitude that we had been there. And he kept saying to my dad, he said, "You have brought holiness to my house, you have brought God to my home." And I was deeply touched by this experience, deeply touched, because this is where you really see yoga in actions on both sides, totally selfless. That man who invited just wanted to say thank you because he loved his villagers. He didn't care if that was all the food he had. And me, I mean, really, they were so poor. But you cannot take away their honor. So Dad was very clever. When it ended, he said, "Oh, I had prepared this before for you." They said, "Just put the envelope and let's go. We left the next day. He didn't even want the thank you, right? So here, this is what I saw true wisdom. Didn't matter. And we were staying at a 5-star hotel. It didn't matter to him to come here. So when we went to the next village, and this is really important for us all to know, we stayed again at a very poor place, and there was no hot water, and it was November, and it was freezing, and you only had the bucket baths, right? And I looked at my parents, so much older than me, not even complaining. And that's when I thought, oh my God, I've been really spoiled. So I said, "Mom, how do you do this bucket bath? Ice cold water." And it was so good for me, because many years later when I went to Nepal, and it was ice cold water every day with windows all open, 2 degrees, and I don't like the cold. And this is where you're talking about getting in touch with the Atman. I'd go into the shower and I'd go, "Hari Om, Hari Om." Marina was like, "How do you do it, Nalanie? You hate the cold." I said, "I don't do it. God does it for me." Even she didn't wash her hair. It was too cold, but I did. And I washed myself, but I didn't do it. Do you see? Because my father was my example. I saw the real meaning of, and I was studying the Gita at that time, of seeing everything as the same. But if you use your higher power, you can get through anything. So these examples, this is why Krishna says, the wise will not disturb the mind of the unwise, but show them by example. This was the example that my father showed me, and that's how I learned it. I needed the example. So as yogis, we have to be example of how to live in the modern world. It's a much easier world. It really is a much easier world, everybody out there. She was smiling. Thanks for smiling back. Yeah, it is. We live in a much easier world than that. So, and this is why karma yoga and really seeing things as it is makes you connect more and more to the divine. It does. Okay, so, and then you start to say, wow, this is really fun. I can adjust to any situation. I really can adjust. A person stands supreme who has equal regard for friends, companions, enemies, neutral arbiters, hateful people, relatives, saints, and sinners. Now, here he's saying that you meet all these people, but you have equal regard. Now this I used to find really, really difficult to understand, because I realized I didn't have equal regard for everybody. And what I understood was, once a Swami spoke to me, and she said to me, "Nalanie, it doesn't mean you have to like everyone. You just love everyone. You don't have to like everyone. Because when it comes to nitty-gritty, the person that you don't like, in the end, you really don't bother with. So in the end, it becomes quite selfless. You don't give any energy to it. But you treat everybody knowing they're all different. And how I worked it out over the years myself is my own practice. Because really, there's so much to learn here that you really have no time to learn. You have nobody to blame anymore. Once you take responsibility as you have to be your best friend, your worst enemy, then you really study yourself. This is the only way to do it. You study yourself. You got it? You study who you are in the world as you, as your personality, and not the selfish personality. So this takes time to understand. I could never understand when I used to read at the Catholic school, Lord Jesus, judge the sin, not the sinner. For me, they were one and the same. Now, I can totally understand this. Oh, somebody will say, oh no, this guy's pitiable. No problem, put him in jail, lock him up for years. Don't let him out, can hurt too many people. But you're a yogi, how can you say that? That's because I love that guy, because if he's out there, he'll do more bad karma. He'll do more bad karma, he'll hurt more people. Loving doesn't mean you let them get away with murder. You don't let them get away. Loving is putting things in a place they should be. Being honest, being truthful, and it looks like on the outside you're judging, but you're not judging because you're seeing the bigger picture for everyone. Do you see? Not judging. So this is what it means. But this, again, it doesn't happen overnight. Over the years when you practice, all of us reach different stages of discrimination. This is why I love the Yoga Sutras of Sri Patanjali. Book 2, Sutra 28, he says, by the practice of the 8 limbs of yoga, the impurities dwindle away, and there dawns the light of wisdom, leading to discriminative discernment. He gives us a clue. You just practice. Yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. You just practice that. If you practice that, then by itself, the impurities will leave you. They will leave you. And when they leave you, what comes out? The divine. Yeah, that's what comes out. I love that because it made it so easy. Because otherwise you're struggling with yourself so much, and there's so much stress, trying to analyze this behavior that's too stressful. Just meditate, learn about yourself, and just do yama niyama every day, non-violence, truthfulness. I told a lie today, I'm not telling any more lies. You write it in your diary. I wrote tons of diary. Keep a spiritual diary. I blew it today. Doesn't matter. I start again tomorrow. My goal is I want to get this. I want to get this. I want to get this. Then it comes a day when you can't even tell a lie by itself because you just can't. You get a bit ill. What to do? It's the higher power takes you over. And this is what he's trying to explain. So this, for me, this is why I love the sutras, and that's why I love teaching it. Because what is the point to get higher knowledge if we have no peace? What's the point to put all this intelligence to our heads if we have no peace and no serenity of mind? Doesn't make any sense. So first, seek ye the kingdom of God in all his righteousness, which is right within you. Nobody can give it to you. The magic is really in our own hands. Can you say that with me? The magic is in my hands. Say it louder. Magic is in my hands. And touch your heart when you say that. The magic is in my hands. The force is with me. Do you know? And it's coming from within. And this is what you start to hear all the time when you live in the inner world. Because the inner world, and this is why we use the mantra, Om Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu, Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu, Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu, Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu. Auspiciousness be unto all, perfect peace be unto all, fullness be unto all, prosperity be unto all, happiness be unto all, perfect health be unto all. May all see good in everyone. May all be free from suffering. So it is our mind stuff that makes us suffer. So it's not that you say this person is not good or not bad, but don't allow it to stay in your mind. Always allow the mind to see the good, even when you see the bad. And that's a technique which you will learn in time. It's really quite clever. And you think, like, wow, this is like juggling balls. I can do that now, you know. And sometimes you have to point out the bad in order to bring out the good. And sometimes you have to praise the good to see if this person has an ego or not. And if they do, then you have to play around with these balls, right? So this is all what we do to ourselves to learn this technique. So, and now in 10, he starts to speak about meditation. A yoga practitioner should continue to concentrate his mind until he masters his mind and body, and thus experiences a state of solitude wherever he may be. Then desire and possessiveness drop away. See, again, what we need to do, the yoga practitioner, we need to practice the 8 limbs of yoga, right? Should continue to concentrate his mind. So our work is to focus our mind. This is where we get mantra, initiation mantra, to help. If you don't want a mantra, it doesn't matter. Find something to focus your mind. Whatever it is, Lord Jesus, Guru Dev, whatever it is, sea, sky, focus, 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 focus. That's our job, until we master controlling the body and the mind. Because by focusing on one thing, when we have all those stray thoughts coming, we keep bringing it back to the one thing. The stray thoughts will come. You keep bringing it back. And this is the practice, right? So initially it seems pretty tough, but really it's just like going to the mental gym and getting your mind focused on one thing. And then when you start to focus on one thing, okay, so all those negative thoughts are coming, 100 negative thoughts, and over a month you're just thinking, no, I'm thinking this too shall pass. This too shall pass, let's say. This too shall pass. This too shall pass. What will happen at the end of the month? All you know is it'll pass.
It will.
The fear will leave you. Yes, it works. It works. The fear will leave you. It will drop away. It will drop away. Because the moment the fear comes, it will pass. So this is, and then your possessiveness will also go away, because you realize, as you're saying, it will pass, that really everything passes. You start to now think internally. We look at life, everything passes. Everything has to go through the law of entropy, which is the law that states that everything in the end disintegrates. This is the law of life. Everything. And then you start to see, oh my God, I am building my world around me, but I am so dispensable. I am so dispensable. Because all of us think we have this big no, I'm so dispensable. In 20 years, I used to think, I won't be sitting here, or 50 years, I won't be sitting here. Now maybe more close to 15, right? Who knows, right? None of us know. And then you go, I won't be here, so what's the point of getting so possessive for anything? Nothing is mine anyway. And then you feel happy, knowing that you're peaceful, because you're not clinging. You're not clinging. So now he talks about meditation. To practice meditation, fix up a clean meditation place with your seat neither too high or too low. Insulate the seat with a grass mat, then a deer skin, and over those a clean cloth. Now he says a deer skin because in those days that's all they had. Remember, this is written thousands of years ago. Doesn't mean you go kill a deer today, no. What he's saying is have a seat that is well insulated so that you are warm, you are comfortable. Make sure you're very comfortable and neither too high or neither too low, right? Then sit and calm the mind and senses by concentrating on one thing. Thus you practice yoga meditation for self-purification. Why are you doing the practice? To purify yourself. You're not doing the practice so I'm practicing so this person can change. I'm practicing so I can blame the whole world for my problems. No, it is for your own self-purification. I'm practicing because what do I want at the end of the day?
Peace.
You got it good. You got the message well. And you said that so quickly. What do you want? Peace. Without even thinking. And that's when you know it's becoming deep into your psyche. Just by the practice, you're getting it. So, I remember before, sometimes I ask, what do you want? Nobody can answer, and you've all seen it, right? What do you want? What do you want? Why are you practicing? Peace, right? Keep the body, head, and neck erect without looking about. Gaze instead toward the tip of your nose. So why we keep the body erect? Because the nervous system runs up, the chakras run up, and the blood flows upwards. So we keep the spine erect so the nervous system can do its work and the Kundalini energy can do its work. Because I always think of it like, a nervous system. If you have a pipe that is curved, it takes longer, right, for the water to get there. But if it's straight, it'll go right very quickly. So this is why we keep our body erect. After all, we are just machines. And he says, look at the tip of your nose. Now, I'd like you all to practice this now. If you can sit erect, right? And I'd like you to just look at the tip of your nose. Don't strain, just look at the tip of your nose. Look up. If you look at the tip of your nose, your eyes are not closed and they're not open. Not only that, you will feel a pressure here. I don't know if you do. Did you feel a pressure here? So you go here, and the pressure here, they talk about focusing on the third eye. Where your third eye is, it's really your pineal gland. Okay, it's not here on the forehead. It's when you look at the tip of your nose, you get this spot. But really, if you make a line from here to here and here to here, if the cross section is really where the pineal pituitary gland, the master glands, sit. Now, the pineal gland is also known as the God spot. Okay, this is also known as the God spot. That's why scientists do not know too much about the pineal gland. They associate it with what they call the sixth sense, or your psychic abilities, which it is connected with psychic abilities. So when you focus there, you are getting the God spot in your brain. So you're actually releasing that hormone. Okay, this is how I see it, and you can read about it also, I'm sure it's written about. 14. Sit thus in yoga meditation, serene and fearless, firm in the vow of Brahmacharya, and with the mind calm, think of me and only of me. And I'd like to interpret this as Gurudev has. When Lord Krishna says, think only of me, he means the oneness. Please know for certain that it's not his form or his name he's talking about. When he says me, he means that cosmic essence, that spirit. It's exactly the same when Christ said, only through me can you reach the Father. He didn't mean his body. That body didn't attain anything. It was just a composition of elements. He meant the spirit. Put your mind completely on that self. Think of it, and you will be serene and fearless. And he said, with a vow of Brahmacharya. What does Brahmacharya really mean? Brahma means God, Charya means student of God. So firmly in that consciousness. Brahmacharya for householders, when you're talking about the sexual part of Brahmacharya that's often interpreted, it just means moderation. Because people who have too much think about sex all the time. It's like food, right? It's our weakness, sex and food. And these are the addictive areas, right? So you think about sex all the time, you can't. Firm. So moderation is good for the householder. And for those who are monks, then the Brahmacharya. But Brahmacharya actually means be in that state where you just focus on the divine, the consciousness, all right? By steadily and continuously practicing yoga in that way, the yogi wins over his mind and realizes the peace that is my nature. This in turn naturally leads to nirvana. This leads you to nirvana, what Buddha says, that peace, that samadhi. It is impossible to practice yoga effectively if you eat or sleep, either too much or too little. And this is really important because nowadays people are so exaggerated about all these diets that you only can have juicing, or you can only have raw, or you can only have cooked, and you can only have keto, or you only can have this, and you can that people are just all the time got so much mind stuff. And I have seen people come and do all these diets, say they're doing it for God, and they come to me 2 weeks later, panic attacks, angry, upset, and I go, where did you do it for God? You did it for your body, yeah, and you're just following sheep. And don't you know, in Ayurveda, everybody needs a different diet. Not everybody can have the same diet. You know, I mean, the world, you know, we're just like sheep. Whatever one person says, it's a fad. Everybody, it's a fad. You know, yes, raw foods are very good for certain people. Certainly not good for me. I'm an asthmatic. You know, and according to Ayurveda, definitely don't have cold fruit in the morning, Nalanie. According to my nature. So, but somebody else who's kapha need cold food in the morning. He can have yogurt and cereal. Wonderful. I have yogurt cereal. I literally feel ill. You know. So we're all different. So everybody is following without understanding who they are. So this, I love this because it's all about balance and moderation. But if you are moderate in eating, playing, sleeping, staying awake, look, eating, playing, play, have fun, sleeping, staying awake, avoiding extremes in everything you do, you will see that these yoga practices eliminate all your pain and suffering. No extremes, moderation. Once in a while you want a delicious piece of chocolate, enjoy it. My father used to say to me, whatever you put in your mouth, say it's nectar, say it's a blessing. He had so many chocolates in his life, he lived till 86. Do you know, I think it's so powerful. I'm not saying go overboard, but you know, moderation is too much, and people suffer too much from not having. They get angry. Having too much, they get angry. So you know, if you eat too much of this, it affects you. Don't eat it. Listen to your body. If you eat too little of something, it affects you. Then eat more. Eat more, because sometimes some bodies need more. So you know, it's you learn a lot about who you are by watching yourself. Your body and your life is different from everybody else's. Okay, so listen to yourself. So moderation is the key. And before I close today, I just wanted you to know, it's so interesting, when you look at the Gita, Sri Krishna doesn't talk anything about asanas, does he? Yoga practices, and he doesn't. The whole Bhagavad Gita talks about more meditation than anything else. Because if you can control the mind, you can control the body. So if you can control the mind, then if you need to do exercise, you will know, my body is a little uncomfortable, I need to do some exercise, because my mind will guide you, your mind will guide you. But nowadays, so many people put all the attention on asanas. And even Gurudev would say to me when he was alive, he would say, Nalanie, if you only have little time, you run a shop, you have your children, you run a yoga center, he says, remember, if you have to give up anything, don't give up meditation. You can give up the rest, but don't give up meditation. Always make time for that.